my undergrad in nutrition. And then I went to Springfield College, where Christina's from, for strength conditioning. And then I got my doctorate in exercise physiology. I currently work for Northeastern University Sports Performance. My primary team is the women's ice hockey team, which we're number 8 in the country, finished out the season with that. I also work with the men's ice hockey team. I know Adam got that really well. We just an hour ago won the Bigger Award, so it's kind of a good connection there. And I kind of am a big geek when it comes to exercise, which you're kind of going to see here a little bit. And I do also want to thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Ryan Heck brought me around today. Perfect, gentlemen. Yeah. From Boston, so it blows me away when someone opens the door for me, you know? And then I know I'm in New Hampshire where none of the bikes are locked up, so it's a whirlwind. Alright, so today, since it's a science lecture, I want to talk about stress. Because if you want to know anything about exercise, you have to know what stress is and what you're doing to someone. Because what you're doing to someone has consequences. Consequences infer positive changes and negative changes. Okay? I think there's a huge stigma in the field of strength conditioning that all we're doing is positive things to happen, when you can be doing a lot of harm to people. Okay? So I want to touch on that a little bit. And also, I want to make things simple and try to explain things really well. At the same time, I don't want to lose the appreciation of how complex we are as an organism and as an animal. Okay? So if I lose you guys at any certain point, please feel free to interrupt me, raise your hand. You don't have to save your questions for the end. Okay? So the overarching theme here is you will change as a human. You can change your brain, you can change your physiology, what goes on in your body, according to what types of stress you're exposed to, which everyone thinks that's just what I do. Everyone thinks, oh, I just give people an exercise program, and that's just stress, and they make changes to become a better athlete. But it's also how much stress you can handle. And I think that, for me, is like the overarching theme of today of how I can change how someone handles stress, okay? And that's going to affect their performance and their health, okay? Not only do I care about people for the 4 years I have them, but when they go to the NHL after they're done at Northeastern, when they go on in life, how can they handle stress? And that will affect the diseases that they are exposed to, their health when they're older. So how are we going to get through this today? We're going to talk exactly about what stress is. We're going to talk about 2 concepts called homeostasis and allostasis. Okay? We're also going to talk about the types of stress. So there's 2 types of stress. And then acute versus chronic. And then I'm going to try to connect this to exercise, which is probably what you guys are mostly interested in. And then performance considerations, so how I kind of utilize this information when I train people. And I kind of anticipate a lot of the questions to be performance-based, which I encourage, so I'm not really going to talk a lot about training. So if you have any specific questions about training that you're interested in, please let me know. Okay, anyone, what's stress mean to you guys?
You get mental stress.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay.
You feel like you have a lot of things to get done in a short period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get proper. You have a lot of information that you don't have to use, you can't process it.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's perfect. That's what we're going to get to. That's what being human is. Okay? The original research with stress, okay, or why we have evolved this system of creating a stress response is to run away from the line when it's chasing us. Okay? It's a short-term physical emergency. Short-term physical emergency. So that's it, we're all in here, and a lion walks in the room. We're all gonna burst out of our chairs and try to run out the door, okay, to get away from it. Then we're outside and we're safe, we should be able to turn it off, okay? So that's the original definition of stress. It's a disruption from normal, okay? So what's normal? It's this term called homeostasis. So it's this idea that we need to run every system in our body within a certain window, with a certain balance mean. So if there's a disruption, something goes down, we bring it back up and we keep this constant level within our body. For an example, glucose, blood sugar. Okay, we need it to be somewhere between 80 and 110 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? If it goes away from that or below that, we feel symptoms. We need to bring it back up or push it back down, kind of be in that window. Okay? The two most threatening things to us as a species are temperature and pH changes. So we need to be, our pH needs to be between 7.35 and 7.45. That's a really, really tight window. If you go outside of that, you are in big trouble. Okay? Temperature is the same way. We're kind of going to talk about other regulatory systems that aren't very strict, and we can actually change and manipulate it. Okay? So a stressor is anything in the outside world that knocks us out of this homeostatic balance. Okay? So the father of stress research, Hans Selye, came up with this term called homeostasis along with Walter Cannon. Okay? And it's this idea that we're at this baseline level. This is our homeostatic level. See here, like a little seesaw. We're always at this perfect little balance inside of us. When a stress comes along, okay, we recognize this as an exposure, we recognize this as a lion coming into the room, and we initiate the same response every single time. Okay? Then what our body does is we go through a response phase and we have to bring ourselves back down to homeostasis. If we can't do that, that's when we start experiencing symptoms. So in terms of exercise, if we want to bring that into this now, this is a weight room session. Okay? I do a bunch of squats. Okay? I actually cause an inflammatory response in my body. You feel your heart rate going, you feel your blood pressure go up, things like that. And then after that exercise, your body's going to make changes and it's going to adapt to that, saying, wow, that was intense. I don't want to experience that again. I'm going to make some changes where the next time I do that, I'm not going to feel like it's that much of a stressor. That's why when you go and you keep squatting, after like 3 weeks, something becomes like really easy. Okay? Because your body adapts to that. So there's types of stress. There is this physical stress that we just mentioned. Okay? This zebra needs to get this away from a lion that's chasing it. This lion is half starving, and if the lion doesn't kill the zebra and eat it, it's not going to make it through the night. So it's a stressor for both of them. They have to turn on this on switch, okay, in order to elicit certain types of responses in the body. So our definition right now of stress is a survival mechanism that protects against a threat. Now, if you're any other mammal besides a human, that's where the definition would stop. It wouldn't go beyond a physical stressor. But if you're human, we expand this definition. And that's psychological. That's what we just mentioned. Okay? And this is what makes us completely unique from any other mammal, is that we can think a stressor is a stressor. So now we change the definition into a perceived threat. Okay? It's when you can think you're just about to be knocked out of homeostatic balance. And this doesn't have a clear on and off switch. Okay? That's why we can be worried about an exam or a presentation a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance. Okay? And we can have this system just on that entire time. So we can just think our way into turning this system on. Okay. So this is a great quote from Robert Sapolsky. He's a neurobiologist at Stanford University. He does a lot of research on stress in mammals and primates. And basically, we have taken a system in our body that has evolved for dealing with a 30-second emergency, and we turn it into 30 years about thinking about Social Security or taxes or our marriage, things like that. So everything becomes an emergency. And I want to emphasize, and I'm going to try to connect, that everything means your entire system. So if I stress my muscular system, I'm not just going to stress my muscular system. I'm going to stress my entire system. So that means my brain, my vascular system, my endocrine system, everything is involved in that. So why are we so unique? Okay? Well, it's because of our most modern adaptation that separates us from all other mammals, and actually all other species that was around 150,000 years ago. Okay? We are the species of Homo sapiens, and we originated in East Africa. Okay? There was Homo erectus that originated in East Asia. There was Homo neanderthals that originated in Europe and West Asia. And about 70,000 years ago, we, Homo sapiens, spread and overtook all other species. Now, why did this happen? Because we were able to develop our cerebral cortex. You can't see the difference here, the light's kind of fading it out. But we developed a greater ability to think abstractly, to use fiction, to use imagination. And this allowed us to bring people together and work as a community or group. And Homo neanderthals and all other types of species weren't able to do this. So us being able to work together as a group is why we're so successful as a species. Okay. But today, we've innovated this classic stress response situation, but it's been eliminated from nature. So we don't have lions chasing us across the savannah, okay? We have now sitting in traffic for an hour. We have exams coming up. We have a hockey game coming up. So here, it's stress is stress. Okay? So we are going to initiate the same response, whether it's a physical stressor or a psychological stressor. Because we have a prefrontal cortex and our limbic system, which is how we generate emotions, either positive or negative. These are our higher brain centers, and they control everything else. That's a good quote here. If you want more information about this or really understand it in detail, I recommend this book. It's a game changer for understanding health and disease. Dr. Sapolsky said, "We have come to recognize the vastly complex intertwining of our biology and our emotions. The endless ways in which our personalities, feelings, and thoughts both reflect and influence the events in our bodies." So, a psychological stressor has a direct physiological stress on the rest of your body. Okay, so this brings us to our stress bucket, or if you want to think of it like a bank account. Okay? We have a bucket here, and we can fill it with things that will give us outlets for stress and alleviate stress. Okay, but if we have these things down here emptying the bucket or bank account, such as relationships, a bad environment, poor diet, illness, overtraining, okay, we're emptying this bucket faster than we can fill it. Okay? And it's stress is stress, so it's all the same thing. Okay, so an acute stressor. So a lion comes in the room. What is going to happen inside my body for every single person in this room? Okay? We're going to break it down into hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, physiological systems, and then I want to tell you about how Me standing here, if I'm threatened, I'm actually shifting my weight back. I can kind of feel my back a little bit. I'm extending, okay? It's a threat position, and I want to explain that a little bit. Okay, so first of all, we have to know what the HPA axis is. So if I want to turn that flip on, a lion comes in the room, first thing that's going to happen is my hypothalamus, my brain, is going to release corticotropin releasing hormone. That hormone is going to go into my anterior pituitary gland in my brain, and that's going to release adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone. That's just going to go through my blood system and go down to my adrenal gland, and that's going to release cortisol, which is known as like your typical stress hormone. Okay? That regulates the system. So when I'm safe outside and I know the lion's gone, when I have to flip the switch back off, cortisol is going to send signals to my brain telling it to stop releasing those hormones, and then I'm going to bring cortisol back down. So that's the on and off switch. Okay, so then what's going to happen is my hypothalamus sends information to my brainstem. Now this is happening every single time you pick up a weight. Okay? So my brainstem, that regulates my autonomic nervous system. Now your autonomic nervous system gets split in two. Okay? Your sympathetic nervous system, that gets flipped on, so that's like pressing the gas in your car. That's getting chased. So what happens is my pupils are going to dilate because I need my visual system to know where I'm running, and it's going to narrow my vision. I don't need my peripheral vision anymore. My heart's going to beat, my breathing rate's going to increase, my blood pressure is going to go up, and then I'm going to shut down things that I don't need. My body is worried about a short-term emergency, so my body's not worried about the long-term anymore because I'm thinking, the long term might not happen anymore. So I'm going to shut down blood flow and resources going to my reproductive system, my digestive system, okay? My immune system. However, when you go home and you want to flip this switch off and you want to go home and relax and watch TV, you need to be parasympathetic, which means your pupils are going to shrink. Your heart rate and blood pressure should go down. You should be able to send blood to your digestive system to digest your food, okay? Reproductive system, endocrine system, so your hormones are all regulated well. And that's like pushing the brakes on your car. You can't push your brakes and your gas on your car at the same time. It's the exact same thing. You need to be able to let go of the brakes and push the gas, okay? Okay, so now we have kind of two windows of how the stress response is created. So my hypothalamus tells my brainstem to activate my sympathetic nerves. This is my fight or flight system, which is going to tell my adrenal medulla to release epinephrine. The other name for epinephrine is adrenal, okay? Common name for it. And that's going to tell my tissues in my body to do a certain thing. We're going to go through that. Then we go through this HPA axis, and I release cortisol, which tells my system to turn off and turn on. Okay, what about your anatomy? Okay, there's not just something going on inside of your body or your brain. I can actually shift my position, and if I'm threatened by something, say my boss is really mean, okay, and he doesn't talk to me very well, when he's talking to me, I'm going to extend back and rotate to my right. If you are threatened, you will always, 100%, all the time, rotate to your right and extend back, okay? Now, I will explain this in terms of exercise, and why I think it's probably one of the most important things to understand if you're training people, okay? You're going to increase your muscle tone. Why? Because your sympathetic nervous system's on, okay? And you're going to increase recruitment of extensor muscles. So these are my back. You have low back pain, you're in a threat position. Okay? Alright, so how can an acute response of what we just talked about become unhealthy? Because as humans, we need challenge. We need adversity. If you aren't, you're gonna suffer negative consequences as well. Okay, so there's kind of this inverse relationship between stress exposure and health outcomes. Okay? You need to be healthy in order to perform. Don't forget that. So on this adaptive side, we need small to moderate amounts of stress exposure in order to have positive health outcomes. Okay? However, there's this tipping point here when healthy challenge becomes a progressively unhealthy stressor. So we can't shut the off switch on. So humans are like any other mammal. We now suffer. They're unlike any other mammal in which we suffer from diseases that basically progress from long periods of chronic stress. Okay? Adult onset diabetes, hypertension, things like that. And I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so now going back to this whole model we have here. As we mentioned before, we have psychological stresses. So all of this is regulated from my higher brain centers. And if you recall, that's your prefrontal cortex, which is right here, and your emotional centers in your brain. Now think about that for a second. Think about your emotions, what sets you off, okay? What you worry about, okay? A game coming up, you're getting stressed out from that, right? You're setting all of these things up, and you control all of that with those higher brain centers. Okay, stress response is the same thing. So it's basically you need energy, and you need to be able to deliver that energy to the muscles in order to be able to run from something. Okay, the zebra getting chased. It's also gonna affect your brain and your senses because you're gonna become very hyper vigilant and sensitive to sensory input. So you're going to be alert all the time. That's why your pupils dilate. Your vision gets very sensitive. And then you turn off long-term building processes. So a factor in aging is your ability to turn on the stress response to release cortisol, but it's also the ability to terminate that response, to be able to shut it down. Okay? If you're not able to shut it down, there's consequences for that. Stress doesn't necessarily, it does in cases of disease, make you sick, but it can make it more likely for you to become sick and then continue that sickness so you can't get out of it. All right, let's see. Okay, so we all handle this in different ways. Every person in this room handles a certain stressor in a different way or has a perception of that stressor in a different way. So this little inverted view of a stress response and a health outcome, okay, we all have a different shape to that. So this person at the top can handle more stress without any negative consequences more than this person here. So what are some factors or experiences that can change it? Okay, so if you have trauma in your early life, if you have early experiences that have given you stress, that will narrow this inverted view. However, here at the bottom, you can widen your own individual inverted view if you have certain things in your life. If you have outlets for stress. So if someone breaks up with you, you have a friend to be able to talk to about it. You're able to express your emotions or express your stress and release it. Okay? If you have predictive information that can make stressors less stressful, Say you're at the doctor's office or dentist, excuse me, you're getting your teeth drilled, and he says, 1 more minute. And you're like, okay, 1 more minute, that's not that bad, I can handle this. Compared to someone who says, it could be like another hour or 2, I don't know yet, just hang in there. Then your mind will go crazy of like the stressor will become more. If I'm used to 3 hours of traffic a day, and I only have to spend an hour in traffic today, well, I'm like, this is great, it's not a stress at all. If someone's not used to spending an hour in traffic and has to spend that hour in traffic, it becomes a huge stressor for them. Okay? And that's related to relativity, your ability to interpret a type of stressor. So if someone, you guys, are prepared to take an exam, that relative to you, that's not a very big stressor. However, if someone else hasn't prepared for that exam and isn't familiar with the information, that's a huge stressor for them. Okay? Probably the biggest thing is social relationships and social isolations. And I think that's a huge factor to this day and age with social media, phones. They're limiting social interaction. Someone asked me a question earlier about what's my biggest advice for like a training session. And honestly, if you're gonna take something seriously and you're gonna train hard for something physically, I think the best thing you can do is to be as social as possible during that training. So team is a great environment for that, but also some teams, right, if there's bad social interactions, if there's fighting or social isolation, it could actually be a bad setting for that. So if you're a power lifter and you're training for an event, okay, that is a massive dose of stress on you. So what you can do to kind of help that stress bucket kind of bank account analogy is go out with your friends, be as social as possible, be able to have an outlet, okay? Alright, so what happens when a stress demand can't be met by a regulatory system, which is basically physiology? So this is where I'm afraid I'm going to lose people. So I'm going to go pretty slow and I'm going to talk about specific examples. Not only am I going to talk about something that happens inside your body, I'm going to give an example about blood pressure, but I'm also going to give an example about an ice hockey player, okay? Alright, so we have this thing, okay, I'm always supposed to be at this level, even thing in my body called homeostasis. I always want to come back to that. Well, actually, that theory is pretty outdated in stress research. And this term called allostasis is actually more accurate. I can bend and change and manipulate what's considered normal for me. Okay, let's go through this. So we're talking about a chronic stressor over time, okay? An unhealthy amount. So that's me panicking about my presentation that's coming up in a month that I haven't done anything for yet. But then I have ice hockey testing coming up and I need to do all this work for that. And then my boss gave me another project and I need to do all that work for that. And then I'm in a fight with one of my friends, so I'm a little socially isolated in that sense, right? And now, that entire month, I cannot turn the switch off, okay? I'm chronically stressed, okay? Oh, I forgot to do my taxes. Oh no, tax day is coming up, okay? Now, I'm using my psychology to never turn off that system, okay? So what's happening is, I have to be exposed to something first, okay? So, a single stressor, an acute stressor, I should be able to turn off the switch, turn it on, no problem, no damage done, that's actually a healthy thing. Okay? But when that stressor becomes chronic, and that disruption has not been removed, now I'm in an allostatic state where my brain that's controlling everything says, something's going on, I need to make an adjustment because something is chronically being elevated or dropped down. So what I do is whatever response I make becomes my new normal, okay? And that puts wear and tear on the system. Because I only have so much energy to put into something. I only have so many resources to allocate to different places. So if I'm squatting, I need I need blood to go into my muscles. I don't need my digestive tract. I don't need my reproductive system when I'm squatting. So blood actually gets shunted from those systems and from those areas. Okay? I'm chronically stressed and blood is constantly being shunted from my digestive system and reproductive system. Suddenly I'm having problems if you're a male with testosterone levels, if you're female, your menstrual cycle, okay? Your immune system can shut down. And then you're in a state of pathology. Okay, so that's basically indicating a disease state or an injury state. All right, let's go through an example with this. Example would be blood pressure. So I have to sit in traffic. My blood pressure goes up. I hate this. This is horrible. I hate living in Boston, right? Okay, that's a one-time thing. When I get home, I should be relaxed again and be like, oh, that's done. Okay, I have time to relax. However, when I have to sit in traffic every single day and I perceive that as an enormous stressor, and I can't just relax when I'm sitting in traffic and my blood pressure is elevated, and then when I go home, okay, I'm in a bad marriage or bad relationship. I don't actually look forward to going home. Then I never come down. My blood pressure is always elevated because I'm always stressed about something. Okay? So what's going to happen is my brain is going to adapt to that blood pressure. I'm going to create a new normal. So my brain is going to make changes in my vascular system. Okay? I can thicken the smooth muscle in my vessels, and I can increase the vascular wall to lumen ratio, basically making my vessels tighter, okay, so they can't expand and contract as good. So what this does is this turns my blood pressure from being 110/70 at normal. Now my new normal is 200/90, and that is my new normal now. And what that is a pathology. So what's a disease state for blood pressure? What do you call that?
You guys know this from class.
Hypertension, perfect. Yes. Now I have hypertension. That's an allostatic state. Okay? That's putting stress on my body that creates wear and tear, and it becomes a negative thing, right? Unhealthy. Okay, here we go. What do you guys see in this picture? I'll give you a clue. Look at her left versus right leg. When she's deadlifting. I don't see anything different.
Below the knee.
Of what? Woo! You're killing it, guys. She's killing it. Does anyone see her right thigh is bigger than her left thigh? So her vastus lateralis, which is your muscle on the outside of your thigh, has hypertrophy. It's grown more than the left one. Okay? Her right knee is actually pointing out a little bit more to the side than the left one. You see that one there? Okay? So if my knee is pointed out to the side, that means my femur inside of my acetabulum, my pelvis, is externally rotated. Okay? And then the bar shift, you probably can't see it very well with the legs, but the bar, there's more space between her leg and the bar on her right side, which means she shifted the bar over to the right side, so she can have more weight on her right leg. Okay? This isn't some rare case. This is the majority. Okay? And does everyone remember this kind of picture from before? It was like, he was rotated to his right and extended. This is just how she stands now normally. This is her new normal. This is an allostatic state. Let's go through this. This is why understanding stress is so important, because when I look at her, I understand the state of stress that she's in. If I put more stress on this girl, if I put her in loaded extension, am I doing more positive or more negative things to her? Okay? Okay, let's go for this. So, the sport of ice hockey drives your hips into extension and external rotation. Okay? That's what skating is. You do that at your hips. Okay? That's fine, right? No big deal. However, if she gets off the ice and she walks around like a typical ice hockey player, walks to the side, right? And is like stuck like this. You can see the ribs sticking out of the shirts. It's a normal pattern, nothing to freak out about. Okay, she's now in a chronic state of overactivation of her extensors in that threat pattern, that stress pattern. Okay? And then what she does is it's called low slug. When there is more load on something like a bone or a muscle, you actually grow that bone or muscle to withstand that load. So if she has more muscle on her right leg, that means she has shifted over to her right side and her brain grew more muscle there to be able to handle it. Does that make sense? Okay, so why is this important here? So now this is her new normal. She's stuck in a state of extension and external rotation. Okay? So if she needs to get more extension or more external rotation when she's performing her sport, she's going to develop a pathology. She's going to develop anterior ligaments are just going to completely stretch out, and she's going to develop other hip pathologies which she has, which are very, very typical in ice hockey players. Okay? Now she creates pathologies in her hips to be able to deal with that and getting more range of motion. Okay? This is Alice said, and her brain did this. Okay? So when I talked about before, I just stressed the muscular system. I stress the entire system. So what she does, and I'm going to kind of use this example as an extreme, but if I'm in this threat position, right, if I'm a stressor, I'm extended, okay? So what it does, it actually puts pressure on your sympathetic nerve junction that's right here in your thoracic lumbar junction in your spine, and that pushes and compresses your sympathetic nerves even more. Okay? So now you're even more state of stress. She's always on a constant alert, can't relax, has anxiety issues. Okay? If you're always in a stressful state, you're always going to act like you're in a stressful state, you're going to behave a certain way. Okay? This is why we have a lot of anxiety issues here. So, how are we doing this? Okay? This is all unconscious. You're not aware of this. But every single stressor or a challenge in your life is associated with an emotion. Either approach, okay, it's an incentive, or avoidant. Okay? And these are two different areas right here in your limbic system. So this is a higher brain center. This is your emotional system. Okay? Your area called the basal ganglia is associated with approach behavior, positive reinforcement. Okay? And a stressor can be judged as either harmful or beneficial. So everything you do, every judgment that you make, every action that you make is associated with an emotion. Okay? And then your amygdala is associated with fear and avoidance behavior. Okay? And I'm not going to explain too much about the right rotation, but I'll explain a little bit about the two brain hemispheres. Okay? They're different. They do different things. Emotion is really controlled with your right brain center. Besides one emotion, which is fear, which is really controlled with your left. Your left hemisphere controls the right side of your body. The right hemisphere controls the left side of your body. So if I'm promoting anxious and fearful kind of behavior and emotions, I'm feeding into my right side. Okay? Behavior is driven by physiology. The more stress you have in your life, this is any stress, physical or emotional or psychological, the more we constrict blood vessels to the outer layer of our brain. This is our cortex. This is what's involved in abstract thinking, planning, imagination. We will send more blood to the areas that are more reactive, which is our emotional area. More specifically, our amygdala, which will make things more fearful and anxious, which reduces the likelihood of the ability to relax and socialize, which promotes cortical function. And that's by Dr. Pat Davidson. So, if I have a big stressor in my life, I'm competing for a competition, I'm training really, really hard, what your brain is going to do is actually going to send a lot of information to your emotional center, and you're not going to do a really good job of thinking and processing information. Okay? So it's creating a feed-forward loop, where if I feel stress in my body, and that becomes chronic, I can actually change my brain and actually make everything feel stressful. And then my brain's feeling stress, my body's feeling stress. It becomes this big feedback loop. So if you have to think about what we talked about before, if I'm putting a lot of stress on my body, I need to be able to do things up here, like socialize and interact with people, in order to shut that feed-forward system off and not become a chronic stressor. So, if I want to process information and think about things, plan for future events, write fiction, be imaginative, I need information to be sent to my prefrontal cortex. Okay? And my thalamus, which acts as a relay station for information in your brain, you need to send it to your prefrontal cortex. However, if I'm always sympathetic, if I'm always stressed, my thalamus, which again acts as like a relay station for information in the brain, is actually going to send it first to your amygdala, which is going to associate it with anxiety and fear and threatening behavior. Okay? And remember, I'm always going to bring it back to that picture of that and why this is so important, especially in collegiate athletics. So how does this all relate to exercise? Because exercise, the definition is planned stress. That's all it is. I'm going to manipulate variables such as reps, sets, intensity, volume, in order to calculate how much stress I'm going to expose you to. Okay? And coaches do this too, with practice plans. So we always want acute exposure, be able to come back down from it, acute exposure, come back down from it. That's how we adapt to stress. That's how I can handle my stress. However, when there's a lot of things going on in our life, like academics, social relationships, okay, things like that, I'm not able to come back down from it. It becomes a chronic stressor. Okay? So why is exercise considered a good stressor? Because it's an acute exposure. There's a lot of beneficial things that can happen from exercise when I plan it right and you have repeated acute stressors, challenge. I have improved oxygen delivery, cardiovascular efficiency. My immune system can get better at fighting off sickness and disease. Muscle mass is actually a predictor of mortality, so how long you live. Okay? So maintain your muscle mass for as long as you can, as much as you can. Exercise also elicits a hormone that is involved for mood enhancement, learning, memory. Okay? So there's a lot of beneficial things with exercise when it's managed well. So how I kind of put this into categories. A low-grade stress will produce a very small alarm phase, and it's not great enough to trigger changes, and you won't really adapt to it. However, on the flip side of that, chronic stress will produce a huge drop alarm phase, inadequate recovery time, and it will result in actually poorer performance, okay, and overtraining symptoms. However, acute high-grade stress systematically applied over long durations, so acute application, drop down, acute application, drop down, is when you're actually going to increase fitness and produce greater performance. I got a great question earlier today, and I actually just put this in about an hour ago. It was about heart rate. I wouldn't get all excited about heart rate, but I wanted to show you this example of the system called First Beat that we utilize with the women's ice hockey team. So this is a printout PDF of, so every single time women's ice hockey player steps in the ice hockey rink, they have to have a heart rate monitor strap on. It's a little more advanced than heart rate, but it tracks training loads throughout the season. Everything they do, they need to have this on. And you can see at the bottom here, it tracks their loads over time. So over here it says moderate load, and over here it says high load. So you can kind of see throughout the season where this person's going. And if I see someone over this red line for a great amount of time, I will cut certain things in their training to bring them back down. This, they actually get emailed to every time I press the stop button. They get this email to them, and it emails it to me. Okay? Right away, within 5 seconds. They love it. So this example right here, and I kind of want to connect physical and psychological. This was actually their on-ice testing session. So this is only a half-an-hour block, and in the end, she had to do a 6-minute test. Okay? It's their speed skating test. Okay? So here, this whole 20 minutes before that, when she's just thinking about testing, okay, and making sure and knowing that the coaches are going to get these numbers, that I'm going to consider these numbers in her training, her heart rate is around 150, 160, just waiting for that to happen. So this is a psychological kind of aspect, right? She's creating a stressor. So her heart rate's going like crazy, okay? Then when she gets to her testing, it's all red up here, she's around like 190, around 195, okay? Spikes right up, and then she gets off the ice and probably goes back down. I get training effects, I track tracking load, everything on the sheet. I want to remember this when I start to talk about an elevator analogy. Let's see. So, okay, why this is flipping. If her heart rate starts at 150 and her max heart rate is about 200, she has like 50 beats to go, right? Do you think it would be more beneficial if she started at like 110 and she had that huge gap to 90 beats to go? Okay. How you deliver blood to your heart, body and tissues doesn't have to do exclusively with rate. There's other factors involved. But if you're limiting yourself because you already have a high heart rate and then your max is very close to that, you don't have a big window to train in for going. She probably actually could have done better if she actually started from a less stressful state. So my job is to basically, it's just a stress management. That's all I do. I apply stress, and then I assess how we can increase their stress bucket and kind of stretch out that inverted view that we saw earlier. Okay? Because health and performance aren't the same thing. Okay? If you're a high performer or elite athlete, you sacrifice things that are involved in your health because of stress and how much you can handle. So I can apply the best program in the world. Like I can hand a person a program to squat and do all the stuff that's going to make them a great athlete. But what they do outside of the weight room and training center can completely ruin that. Okay? And that's what I want to talk about here. It's paradigm shift we're kind of seeing with sports performance that is, I consider my job. Okay? So we're going to go to this elevator analogy. So level 10 is high level performance. This is where I want them to be at. It's explosive extension. It's being able to react to something really quick. It's what I want. It's sympathetic. Okay? It's stress. Being able to handle it, turn the switch on and go. However, floor 1 is parasympathetic. This is when I'm calm and relaxed. I can digest my food. I want athletes to have all floors 1 to 10. The problem is, if I'm always in a chronic state of stress, I can be starting at floor 7 or floor 8. Okay? That was this athlete here. They're stuck on floor 7. So when they go to perform, they only have 3 floors to go through. So if I need more, I'm going to break through the roof. I'm going to break through level 10. And that's when I get injuries, pathologies, which means stretching out ligaments, stress fractures, things like that. So what you can actually think about that, if I actually bring her floors down and make her less stressed, she has more access for performance. Okay, so training modalities. I could give a week presentation on this, but simple things, okay? So if this person, we can all agree, is extended like this, and then shifted to her right, okay? And she's externally rotated her fingers. This is like every single hockey player you will ever see. So this is very important. So if I'm doing a bench press, well, you guys, everyone here is familiar with a bench press, simple, right? Okay? Now I'm pushing that bar. My chest comes up like this, right? Everyone like tries to get that arch through their back, right? My feet are on the ground, so my hips are being pushed forward. I'm an extension, and I'm rotating like this, pushing out my knees to get more force up. So to me, that's just promoting this, okay? So what I can do with that is have people put their feet up on a bench, put something between their knees so they have to squeeze it a little bit. That's driving external rotation when you do that. And then, before they go, I make them exhale for a really long time and bring their pelvis and ribs together to put them into flexion. So it's giving them something that they don't have. Giving someone who's stuck in extension and external rotation, flexion and internal rotation. You can do this with anything, okay? You normally see another example. Small one. Bent over row, right? Chest up, I'm holding here, and I'm just driving, right? You're doing it in extension, interior tilt of your pelvis. And if you're a hockey player, you're always stuck there. So you're kind of reducing your floors for performance. But if I just tuck my hips a little bit, put myself in a little bit of flexion, feel my abs, and then row, I just gave myself posterior pelvic tilt, which will take me out of extension. I gave myself a little flexion, feel my abs, and I just basically reverse what you're stuck in. So that's like dropping your floors down. So training people in the opposite of what they're stuck in will actually reduce the stress on their body. Because if I just put a bar in their back and put them extension and drive this, that's going to increase her stress level and just drive this even more. Now I'm just putting her at greater risk for injury, okay, and having more stress in their life. So we bring this back to the paradigm shift in sports performance. Sport performance is involved in all of these things here. So it can be her diet, her nutrition, okay? It can be social isolation. It can be chronic stress. Okay? It can be a sense of purpose in life. It can be dehydration. It could be overtraining or mismanagement of her training. Okay? So any of these things can be involved, and that's all your stress bucket. So that's managing. My job is not just effective exercise, but also sleep, nutrition, relationships, poor diet, okay? The environment that they're in, okay? Do they have good relationships with their friends, their teammates? Do they know what good nutrition is? Okay? Do they sleep 8 hours a night? Because I can't expect them to get better at performance and adapting to what I'm giving them if things in their life are taking away from my ability to make them a better athlete. Okay? If you actually know what it's like to train for something really, really hard physically, you will know that that will force you to address other things in your life, such as how much you sleep, what you're eating, lifestyle factors like having a routine and having a schedule, having important people in your life. So all of these things are involved in that, not just necessarily like what you do in practice and in the weight room. It's lifestyle. Those are my references. Do you guys have any questions?
I have just a
Yeah.
comment. So one of the things that you're on Twitter and I've talked to you guys on the team about and shared this with people in the community, it's actually, I think it kind of fits into the greater scope of the school of our social, emotional, and competency.
Yes.
I'll throw over the term of altruism, unselfish concern for others, or getting outside of yourself and thinking of others. So, bring it back to the guys on our team. They'll go out on the ice, they'll be stressed for a shift,
Yes.
right? They come back to the bench, and they don't say a word. So there's no socialization, right? There's no talk to the guy to the left of them, talk to the guy to the right of them, or talking to their teammates on the ice while the game's unfolding. I think, and so I refer to that as they're caught up in themselves. They're not de-stressing when they come back to the bench. I think they're actually staying in that stress state. Whereas, when they come back to the bench after the body's in the stress, if they can socialize, right? I think that help. Is that helping performance a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's like so complex because it's also developed like relationships too. Like, if say he's my teammate and I hate him, I don't like him, I don't have a good relationship with him. It's like, it's not like I'm going to associate a negative emotion with him. So if I come back to the bench and he's next to me, like that might just unconsciously give me a negative emotion. So I think it's off the ice of like all around relationship, or I enjoy him, I can talk to him, I feel good about him kind of a thing. So I can make the argument for like, someone used to take in between shifts too seriously in terms of like the elevator analogy of like, they want to bring their athletes all the way down and chill and relax to go up to the next shift. It's like, okay, they're still in competition. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you can look at it a lot of different ways, and I think cheering on the bench is socializing because it's positively encouraging, it's interacting with others. So I agree. Yeah. No, I think that would be great.
What made me think of that was that weightlifter in terms of the power sets, right? So we were in the weight room today and we had an athlete who was maxing out on the bench press at 350.
Yeah.
Okay, like, if he was going to do it a second time, I think he needs to really relax and get outside himself and not think about that next max one rep, right? And thinking of others and watching others and cheering others on is a way to take your mind off of that stress. When we talk about our athletes, I'm sorry, not only will they go into a game or go to a lacrosse showcase in the summertime, not only they think about performing well, they're also paying attention to like, who's in the stand watching me? I need to play well this hard material, and being able to dismiss that will actually help them perform better. As a coach, I guess I'm looking for mechanisms to help